Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Loop Track, and I had heard some pretty good things about this. It's a low-budget independent film from New Zealand, and I've actually enjoyed a lot of what I've seen horror-wise from New Zealand and Australia. So yeah, I decided to check this out because it is currently on Shudder when I'm recording this. I already have Shudder, so I didn't have to pay anything for it. So why not? Plus, heard good things. And I'm going to verify, I did like this film. It's not necessarily going to be for everyone, but in this no spoiler review, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, good, bad, in between, all that. But off the bat, just want to say, please think about subscribing to my channel to support me. Thumbs up on the video to help me with that YouTube algorithm. And all the things. You hit the notification bell button. Also, if you're interested, I have some memberships that there's a link in the description if you're interested in that. Not a lot of pressure, though. All right, Loop Track. Totally different movie. Loop Track, written and directed by Thomas Sainsbury, who wrote and directed a lot of short films, a bunch of TV episodes of stuff that I've never heard of. Like I said, currently on Shudder, film from New Zealand. So synopsis, it's primarily about a main character named Ian, who is a very timid fellow. You get the sense that he's not very comfortable in his own skin. He's afraid of a lot. He's a very twitchy person. And they start with him when he's going to a car park that's at the beginning of, some hiking trails. And the woods there look phenomenal. And he starts to go on this walk, and as he's on the walk, he runs into other people, and then there is a horror element that develops to it. I'm not going to say anything more than that, because I don't want to give away anything, because there are a lot of kind of, I don't want to say a lot of twists and turns, but there's a lot of kind of uncertainty with the film, and it does a really good job of kind of keeping things pretty much in the air until they definitively tell you what is going on. This is one that I didn't feel comfortable trying to predict what the outcome of the movie would be, and yeah, it's a fun ride. So getting into my notes on it, there's good ominous atmosphere created in the beginning of the film that makes you wonder if it's foreshadowing or just the main character being a bit paranoid. That is one of those things. It does set up, like, immediately, can you trust this perspective? Can you trust the main character's perspective and what you're seeing, or is it one of those films? And you gotta watch to find out. There's plenty of time with no score at all, which I'm a huge fan of. I love restraint use of scores, as in, having it at a low volume level, but also not using it too much. Now, I will say, having said what I just said, that there are moments where they go way too hard on the score. It just screams at you so incredibly loud when they really didn't need to. It just gets annoying, in my opinion, but it doesn't happen too much. So we have those wonderful moments where it's like no score or very low level, very restrained, and then they just kind of like blow it out at other times, and it's kind of like, stick with what you were doing before. That was working. The blowing it out thing, not working. Very, very early on, you find yourself wondering what the main character really is up to, because he seems very out of place where he is, and he's also very twitchy. And it, again, like, questioning the perspective in the film, you're wondering, is this guy, like, why is this guy here? He seems so out of place. Why is he so twitchy? Are we going to find out why that is the case? And I'm not going to tell you, obviously, if you do or not, but gotta watch the movie to know. The ambiance is such that you feel like something big could happen at just about any moment, which keeps you a bit on edge. Now, this is achieved in a few ways. It's the acting of the main character himself, because he's kind of afraid of everything, in a sense, as I've kind of already said about him. It's how they shoot the woods, and it's the score that they have to go along with it. So the composition of the score actually is probably the biggest component of those three that really adds to that atmosphere and leaving you a little bit on edge, kind of feeling like literally at any second it could turn horror. Like something really could happen and we could learn what's going on, or just get a death or just another wrinkle in the story. So I like that type of filmmaking. I think that Sainsbury did a really good job from that aspect. There is one character who I do think is pretty annoying in this film, but I think he's supposed to be. Doesn't change the fact that he is maybe a little too annoying, because he is supposed to be, I think, pushing the buttons of the main character a little bit, and it's pushing the buttons of the audience maybe a little too much at times, not all the time. So I was kind of like, I don't really like this character at all, but intended. There actually are some funny moments in the film. There's not a lot of humor to it, but there are just a few sprinkles of it. And when it's done, I think it's actually done pretty well. That's something that's actually really hard to do in horror films, is to actually figure out the right moments to place humor into it without screwing up the flow that you have for the film or the atmosphere that you have going on. And to actually make it funny. That's the other thing. A lot of humor that gets thrown into these types of films just, they don't land. It's like, oh, I see you attempted humor, and that's about it. But with this film, Sainsbury did a nice job with the humor, although there is not a lot of it. There isn't a lot of gore to this film, but there is one really cool gore scene that was probably my favorite part of the movie. Other than kind of the reveal of what's really going on with the main character and the situation and everything. So, yeah, that one gore scene, and if you've already seen the movie and you're watching this review, you know what I'm talking about. It was cool. Although, I would have liked the lighting to have been a little bit better to see that. Although, maybe that was intentional, because maybe the practical effect didn't look the best under bright light. So, you gotta know your limitations as a filmmaker. Not everyone is actually going to like where they end up taking the film, but I actually did. I quite liked where they decided to take this thing. I think most people will be at least okay with it, but I can definitely see those people who are just like, oh, I think that's stupid, because in my mind, I thought they were going to go this way. So that's why I would kind of say, do it the way I did it. Don't really try to guess what's going on, and just let everything be a surprise, really. I do think it drags on a bit at the end, unfortunately. For that reason, the pacing is kind of not the greatest. There are a few moments throughout the film where the pacing really kind of slows down almost too much, but then it ends up picking back up, and I think really the ending is where it felt like they just kind of stretched it out too much for me. And the runtime's not super long. I think it was like an hour and 35 minutes with credits, so it's not anything super long for a horror film, but it did feel like it could have used a little bit of trimming, mainly on the very end. It kind of seemed like they got to a really good point, and it's like, okay, we're done. We got our little bow on it. This film is over. And then they're like, I looked and I'm like, yeah, but there's like 10 more minutes left. I don't really understand that. So maybe a little bit of that 10 minutes could have been okay to keep, but not all of it, because it really slowed things down at the end. And you don't really, with a film like this, you don't want people to finish the film in that way, or at least I personally, as an audience member, don't want to finish a film that way. I'd rather it give you the impact that you're going for, and then kind of cut it off there, so that that's the feeling that someone is left with coming away from the film, not another feeling after that, which is, oh, well, that kind of dragged, that got a little bit boring at the end. So yeah, but anyway, just my opinion. Out of 5 stars, half stars, and play, I'd give this a pretty good 3.5-star rating. Definitely check this one out. And again, especially if you have Shudder, because it's on there. You're not going to have to pay anything extra for it. But go ahead and put it in the comments if you've seen this film, or when you see this film, your thoughts. If you agree with me, disagree with me, in between, would love to talk to you about that, because maybe I missed something about this film, good, bad, or in between about it, and we can talk about that. Or if you just want to talk about regular horror stuff, go ahead. And then, like I said before, subscribe, thumbs up, notification bell, memberships if you want to. Whatever. Anyway, thanks very much for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.